standing in front of the speakers, screens glow, that fire is real. Turn it up, turn it up, turn it up now. Let the truth cut, let it heal. Whoa, yeah. Jimmy Lakey unleashed, just like the Lord intended. He'll say what you're scared to say. Every line unfiltered, unedited, talking DC, swamping power, politics, culture, Jesus' name. He might like that cigar, but he loves the lamb just the same. Jimmy Lakey unleashed, turn it up and feel that flame. No fear, unafraid, every idol gets named, every lie, every shade goes down in holy flame. From the tent to your car, from your porch to the pew, he's calling out the darkness, let the light run through. Jimmy Lakey unleashed, hey, just like the Lord intended. He'll say what you're scared to say. Every line unfiltered, unedited, talking DC, swamping power, politics, culture, Jesus' name. He might like that cigar, but he loves the lamb just the same. Jimmy Lakey, only one filter. Turn it up and feel that flame.
All right, there it is, Brother Leroy and the Jimmy Lakey Mass Choir, bringing it in this morning hot, and I like it. That's very, very good. Nice to have you here. Jimmy is my name. Pleasured, pleased, and thrilled to be here. Well, was that a fun game? It was an awful game. A Super Bowl tonight. If you look at the streams out there, we're going to talk about Bad Bunny, bad Super Bowl, and something else bad. Bad Congress. That's what we're talking about today. Welcome to the program. Monday, the 9th day of February, year of our Lord, 2026. Pleasure to have you. You're back in the days of talk radio. I realized back when I was confined by the bonds of corporate radio, I realized that the Monday after Super Bowl day was just a pathetic day to ever do radio. Nobody, guests didn't want to confirm, callers didn't want to call. It was just a slow day in radio. And I thought of that last night. I said, well, I hope the streamcast, podcast, broadcast different than the days of talk radio. I decided usually after the day after the Super Bowl, because I oftentimes throw a big party at the house of Lakey and this Lakey estate, and I was tired. And so, yeah, I didn't throw a party yesterday. But anyway, long story. Usually the day after the Super Bowl is the day that I like to take off, but this week we didn't take off because we took some time off last week. But President's Day is coming, and we'll find a reason to be lazy on that day, perhaps. All right, the Seahawks win the Super Bowl. Was that the strangest Super Bowl ever? No scores, no touchdowns for a while, then some pick sixes. It was just really kind of a sloppy, pathetic, nasty game. I didn't enjoy it at all. I was kind of cheering for the Patriots. I like Drake May, but then I like the Sam Darnold story. And so I just was wanting good football, and it was not good football yesterday. And it was a very boring game, in my humble opinion. Now, if you're a Seahawks fan, did you find it tantalizing? Did you find it exciting? If you're a Patriots fan, were you going, what happened here? I don't know. I just thought it was not a great game to watch. Now, I also have another question about the Super Bowl. We can talk amongst ourselves. Anybody remember the days of the great Super Bowl commercials? I mean, it was epic. The game could suck all it wanted to, but you're sitting there waiting for the commercials to start, and it got quiet, and then there was laughter. I think with the group I was with, there was one or two commercials that got any kind of activity. One was the Dunkin' Donuts one. I think it's Dunkin', where they had a bunch of actors and people from the 80s and 90s. Urkel was there. Joey from Friends. Ted Danson was there. And they all were just, it was just funny. It was some of the take on the sitcoms that we grew up on. And I thought that was funny. Tom Brady showed up with Jennifer Aniston's boyfriend, and he had like an 80s haircut. I thought that was funny. That got some laughter. There was one about looking at your pee color, your urine color, because you want to make sure that you're hydrated properly. That was a strange one as well. And that kind of brought some chuckle. But what happened to the great commercials? I was reading that many years ago, because of the cost of the commercials and because the dealers of the, excuse me, the car manufacturers have had to take so many losses because of the mandates of the Biden administration for electric cars, that their advertising budgets have really slimmed down. And it used to be that car manufacturers could be 40% of the car commercials or the commercials in the Super Bowl, and yesterday is like 5 to 7%. So I thought it was just a couple of good commercials, really boring. And give me your thoughts on the game and that. Did you have a a favorite commercial? Did you have that? That was always a topic. You could always get a topic going about that. The commercials of the Super Bowl. And yesterday, I thought they were really snoozers. So anyway, maybe we're just getting old and cranky. Get off my lawn, but just wasn't the Super Bowls of yesteryear. I was a matchup. I don't know if it was the whole thing. Now, also we got to what happened to the commercials? The Dunkin' Donuts one, I probably would give it top. I didn't watch every commercial because after a while I was just bored with it, but I just didn't enjoy it at all. All right, what else do I have? The halftime show. How many of you watched the Bad Bunny presentation, and how many of you watched the Turning Point USA Kid Rock version of the Super Bowl? I'm going to give you some honest opinion. You may not like it. I had one television screen with the audio of the Turning Point USA version, Kid Rock show. Brantley Gilbert, is that his name? Yeah, these other country artists. And then I had another monitor, the sound was off, in which you can see the Bad Bunny. And I'll have to say the theatrics, the color, the staging of the Bad Bunny show, the Super Bowl, seemed to be quite amazing. Having him with the cameras looked like he's walking through the fields of Puerto Rico or wherever he was walking through the fields. I thought the aesthetics of it were fantastic. Contrast and compare to the Kid Rock show, that it was dark, it seemed gloomy, and we watched it on, we weren't streaming it, we watched it directly on the old TBN, and it was an awful picture. It's like, do you have high-def cameras? Is this channel not in high-def? I thought it was really kind of dark. I'm going to be honest, and maybe you watched it and loved it, but I thought it was kind of underwhelming, the Turning Point USA. Now, there's a whole bunch of people that watched it. Millions of people have watched it, they think, just on YouTube and all that. But it was I didn't enjoy it that much. Kid Rock, and it went too long. How do you call it a halftime show? I think Bad Bunny performed 6 or 7 minutes. And now they ran a lot of commercials before and after Bad Bunny. So they had about a 15, 20-minute window. I didn't know how they called it a halftime show when all of a sudden we're watching the show, this dark, gloomy black room and no real crowd shots. And I just thought the production was wanting with the Turning Point USA show. But I thought the production was really lacking on it. Maybe it was just a stream. I was watching the television I was watching, but everybody's screaming, the game's back on, and they're still singing. It's not a halftime show if you're just going to do a 30-minute segment. You've got to fit in. So anyway, I was underwhelmed by the whole thing. If you haven't figured out, I thought it was a very disappointing day. Give me your thoughts, the TPUSA show or the NFL show? Which one did you watch? Which one did you enjoy? I will say that if I was just looking at side-by-side camera images, and again, I'm a visual guy. If I'm looking at side-by-side camera, I would all day long have chosen the NFL show. It was bright, it was cheery, it was greens, it was white. It was just a lot of contrast as opposed to the dark stage. And it just felt pre-recorded. It didn't feel like I was going from the game to a halftime show. It felt like they might have cut out a segment of the Country Music Awards and just kind of played that for me. So those are my thoughts. You give your thoughts as well. And did you enjoy it? Or maybe you just got so bored with the dang game that you said, screw it, I'm not going to watch anything. So love to hear from you on those topics. By the way, Donald Trump has an opinion about Bad Bunny. Now, I didn't see the Bad Bunny show. I heard Lady Gaga made an appearance. And one of the criticisms that I see, matter of fact, I think this is the headline this morning on Fox, is Bad Bunny's halftime show ripped for language barrier and suspected political messaging. Now, again, he was speaking Spanish, and so no one really knows what they say. All the crackers across America are watching this thing. Look at that. Look at those little, they're jiggling their booties or whatever you're watching and thinking. And some people say that maybe he was saying things in Spanish, political message, but no one really knows because, none of the show was in English. they say that they were very, very critical of that. President Donald Trump has an opinion. I know that shocks many of you. He called it one of the worst ever when it comes to the Super Bowl halftime show. I didn't see it. So you have to tell me. Here's the exact quote. I know this shocks you that President Trump had an opinion on this. The Super Bowl halftime show is absolutely terrible, one of the worst ever. It makes no sense. It's an affront to the greatness of America and doesn't represent our standards of success, creativity, or excellence. Nobody understands a word this guy is saying, and the dancing is disgusting, especially for young children that are watching from throughout the USA and all over the world. Yeah. President Trump was not a fan of it. He says this show is just a slap in the face to our country, which is setting new standards and records every single day, including the best stock market and the 401ks in history. There is nothing inspirational about this mess of a halftime show, and watch it. We'll get great reviews from the fake news media because they haven't got a clue of what's going on in the real world. And by the way, the NFL should immediately replace its new ridiculous kickoff rule, make America great again. So he didn't like the halftime show, and he didn't like the halftime show, and he doesn't like the kickoff rule. So just in case you wanted to know, what President Trump thought about that kickoff rule or the halftime show, not a fan at all. Some tweets that are coming out. Harmeet Dillon works in the administration. Said, my mother said, who is this Bad Bunny? And she said, don't worry, Mom, we're not going to watch it. But one of the biggest criticisms was that it was all in Spanish for the most part, and people are not real happy about that. Some people were also criticizing the Super Bowl halftime show where the performer sings entirely in Spanish and waves other nations' flag. That's a political statement. It's Bad Bunny will go down in the history as the worst halftime show in the history. America deserved better for its 250th birthday party. And the reference there is Bad Bunny walking off the stage. Just wanting to walking off the stage, holding a football, and there's an American flag and a Puerto Rico flag right there walking in behind him. So, anyway, I thought the colors were great, but yeah, the Puerto Rican flag. I love you, Puerto Rico, but this is America. Thank you very much. So anyway, they're very interesting. Give me your take. All of you have an opinion. I'm sure some of you agree, some of you disagree. Some of you thought it was very, very exciting. I thought it was just the whole thing was boring. I thought the Turning Point USA show was not all that exciting as well. Glad a lot of people watched it, but it was just not. It was just disappointing. Not what I expected from the Kid Rock thing. And the darkness, like they were in this dark club or something. I don't know where they did it, but the aesthetics side by side just totally different. The bright, colorful, cheerful show of Bad Bunny with the colors, and then this dark room, and I thought the production value could have been much better by the Kid Rock performance. So that's my opinion. I'm going to stick with it. Give me your thoughts on this. I'm kind of looking in the chat room. Maybe these have been on the screen. I've been roaming around my eyes and reading other things here. Rachel says the game was boring, especially visiting with friends while we watched. Refused to watch Bad Bunny, but the Turning Point was busy. Also was boring. Also disappointing, even though we watched all of it, not as professional as it could have been. I agree, Rachel. That's 100% what I thought. I thought this was just not the production quality. So all in all, I think we all should get a mulligan, and we should do the Super Bowl all over again. Let's redo the playoffs. Let's get some new teams in there. Let's have a new draw. It's just not going to be exciting, I would say. Ray says, I believe Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory. It makes them that's true, but technically it is. They're waving the flag. I just didn't like it. A lot of folks thought the political messages waving that flag out there with the American flag. I like the red, white, and blue. Thank you, and my red, white, and blue, the stars and stripes, and they were also again flag etiquette. If they're a territory, they were having their flags at equal height. You don't do that. Only the state of Texas will put their flag at equal height, and that's that God says you could do that. If you go to Texas, you go to these car dealerships, there's giant American flags bigger than your house, and they're flying above the interstate. And guess what? The Texas flag is right there with them. And, most people put their Colorado or their New York flag lower. Not in Texas. They're side by side because the good Lord said you should do that in Texas. It's God. God said it's like the 11th commandment. It got struck out of some translations, but it's still in the Texas translation of every Bible. But Puerto Rico, I'm sorry. A little lower, please. A little bit lower. Thank you very much. All right, your thoughts? Very good. Roger says, truth be told, Super Bowl trophy is defined as a world championship, so it kind of makes sense to have many flags, and the NFL is trying to appeal to move to other nations. So, we've been hearing that forever. They keep doing these games over there, and they want to move to other nations. just do it then. I mean, the biggest corporation you can find out there. By the way, I can tell you when I travel, nobody cares about the NFL. They call it American football, and they don't makes no sense. Whether I've talked to people in Europe, they're not interested. And so we may be trying to appeal to. And by the way, how does Bad Bunny? Yeah, you want the Latin American market, but the Latin American market is they have another game they like a lot better. So anyway, appeal to the other markets if you want. That's what they're trying to do, trying to get this global market, and just do it. You're playing games down there, and it's kind of like having Taylor Swift out there doing stuff. We're going to try to attract the young people by having Taylor Swift references in the booth up there watching the football game. People said, "Oh, that's just the NFL. They're going to keep showing that to appeal to a younger demographic to watch the television." Well, how's that work out? It didn't, because once the Taylor Swift camera shot stopped up in the press box or the suites, then you didn't see a bunch of 14-year-old girls all giddy about the NFL. And I don't think the Puerto Rico crowd or the Venezuelan crowd or whatever crowd they're going for, that's all speaking all in Spanish, is going to go, wow, since they had that guy speaking Spanish, I'm going to get season tickets now. I hope they put a team in Mexico City. If that's their strategy, keep going. I just don't think it's going to be the right strategy. Arloa says, I do agree about the production quality of the Turning Point USA show, but I watched it anyway. They did too, but I thought it was I thought the production quality was, you think we're amateurs here. I thought that was, they had lasers and smoke, but I think I didn't like it. All right, what else we have here? Let's do, coming up on the program, by the way, Jonathan Butcher is going to be on the program, talking about schools, education. Dr. Gilda Carl is going to be on the show, talking about the fake feminism that we have out there today, that women really don't care about women, these leftist women that are out there saying, we're all for the women's rights. You're really not at all. So we'll talk about that with Dr. Gilda Carl here in just a bit. All right, over the weekend, big controversy with the King of the Jungle, Lion King parody put together that someone put together, and Trump's team or he or somebody retweeted it, and everybody feigned all this great horrific things, and probably not the best to lead with the Obama thing, but what'd you think of that? First of all, probably shouldn't have done it. But if you've watched the whole thing, most of the news stories and most people drew their opinion based on the image of Barry and Michelle Obama, Big Mike and Barry, right? That they drew. But if you watch the whole thing, they've got people that maybe as elephants. They've got, I think Chuck Schumer was also a little kind of a monkey fella. It was, if you just highlight on Barry and Michelle, I would advise probably should have avoided that. Even if your intent was not as funny, if intent was not racist, going to come across that way. But I think a lot of people feigning their fake, their outrage. Oh my God, I can't believe President Trump did that. And who knows? I don't know if I was busy this weekend. So anyway, was it appropriate? Should they have probably not retweeted that? And if the staff member did, whoever did it, probably could have used better judgment. But I just love it when people get on this fake. I'm so offended by this, and they show that one image. And when I saw the one image, I said, yeah, that's not good. And then I watched the whole video, and I went, oh, okay, it's still probably could have picked some better references there, but it wasn't. If you watch the context of it, it was not the feature of the video. It's just different characters, there's different animals, and some people were elephants, and some were hippos, and some people were monkeys, and some people were ground rats, and it was just truly a parody in that. So again, probably could have used some more judgment in that, especially with the leading photo in that. But, I think Chuck Schumer was also a monkey in that. So anyway, give me your thoughts on that. The outrage out there on the King of the Jungle, Lion King video parody. Let me know what you think of that as well. All right. One of the stories that we haven't been talking about, because we've been supposed to, again, anytime the media is always pushing a story, you have to ask, what is it that they're not covering? For instance, this abduction, very strange abduction. Trying to get a hold of our friend Niels Gravilius on this tomorrow. Savannah Guthrie's mother. Real tragedy, sad. I can't imagine the emotions they're feeling, wondering what's happening to dear old mom. But it's a very strange case, and there's just some strange things happening. And Niels Gravilius going to try to get him on the case as well. We'll talk to him hopefully tomorrow. But my question for you is, they're covering it. In the bottom right-hand corner of Fox all weekend is, here's the FBI hotline if you know anything about this. And I'm great. I'm hoping tips come in. I really am. But when the media starts obsessing over any story, whether it be the Lion King video or whether it be the abduction, seemingly, of Miss Guthrie, God I really hope they find her, or whatever the case may be, you know that there's and they obsess over it. They're always flashing a breaking news, Fox News alert. And you're like, why do you keep pushing this? Why is this really the top story of the day? I find that over 90% of the time, what they tell you or feed you as the top story on any network is probably not the top story. Now, you have to go through, look up the story and find out what is the story that is going to affect my life. What's the story that I should be most concerned about? And I think that there's a lot of other stories out there that should be getting a lot of attention, and they're not. One of those stories is what they are finding out slowly but surely. The truth is coming out about the 2020 election. Now, we've talked about this last week, that the FBI has raided a Georgia warehouse. If you missed this, again, didn't get a lot of news. Last week, the FBI raided a Georgia warehouse with a warrant, and it cites a law prohibiting fraud by election workers. And the allegation is just in this one county, Fulton County, that there were approximately 700 boxes of ballots and other related materials that were taken. The search warrant from Fulton County Election Hub is specifically Title 42 of the U.S. Code, according to sources in Georgia. And specifically, the law bans someone who will knowingly and willfully deprive and defraud or attempt to defraud an election. So basically, you can't do it. And so they're looking into all these boxes, and they're going to do an audit of which one of these were counted, which ones of these are authentic, which ones. They've already confessed that a lot of votes were cast and counted that should not have been counted in Georgia. And so that truth is coming out, and we're not getting a lot of coverage of it. Now, there's another story out there that I think is very interesting as well. This is from John Solomon's JustTheNews.com. The FBI secretly prepared for a disputed election and political violence in 2020, according to bombshell J6 memos that are coming out. So when did they know, and what did they know? The memos come from recently, 2020, turned over to Congress by FBI Director Kash Patel, also warned that foreign enemies like Iran and China were likely to foment domestic violence on U.S. soil. So they have these memos that have been hidden and covered up by the FBI, that the FBI in their investigation says, there's going to be some people doing some strategies that are probably could bring violence to the American soil. Maybe they're going to pay people, protesters, through third parties. Maybe they're going to plan these, but there's going to be some problems after the 2020 election. So the FBI has conducted a tabletop exercise in 2020 that imagined what sort of violence might ensue in a contested presidential election. And FBI Director Kash Patel's turned over the long secret memos to Congress, providing fresh evidence that federal law enforcement was acutely concerned months ahead of time about the potential for violence in the aftermath of the 2020 election. So for all the people out there saying, well, it's Donald Trump, he got all those people at J6 stirred up. No, the FBI was paying attention to what they thought were threats that could be threats spawned by China and some foreign actors. They were tabletopping and they were plotting, how do we handle this? According to the memo, the FBI assesses domestic violence extremist threats related will likely increase as the election approaches, despite the current focus of many domestic violent extremists on the COVID-19. So the FBI was paying attention in September, October, even July about how, people are out. There's a lot of anxiety out here. There was warning in these FBI memos that enemies like China and Iran were going to do their best with channels and pay or however they could do, and affiliating with left-leaning advocacy groups to foment domestic violence on the U.S. soil. So it's very interesting to find out that the Washington, D.C. types act like it was Donald Trump making a speech and he said nasty things, and all these people got spun up in frenzy. And yet it turns out nobody got spun up into the FBI was watching this months and months ahead of time. So keep a sharp eye on it. There's also a story did last week that the Department of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, has released a statement and claims that DNI was investigating Puerto Rico ballot boxes, speaking of Bad Bunny, because they think that maybe Venezuela and Maduro was hacking those elections. So there's a lot of interesting stories circulating out there. They're not top stories, but they should be, about the sanctity of our elections. And then finally, there's a bill moving through the hallowed halls of Congress that Democrats are trying to block, and it would require for all federal elections, you must show an ID. Hakeem Jeffries just says, no, that's a state issue. Well, it's a national thing if it's going to affect the disenfranchise someone in Colorado because you didn't require or you did require. It's got to be a uniformity, and it should be. And by the way, the Democrats once again find themselves on the wrong side of this issue. There's a couple of polls out there. I think Pew Research says it's 71% of Democrats. 71% of Democrats think, yes, you should have an ID if you're going to vote. And so this is a story that should get a lot of press because this is an actual good bill that's moving through the hallowed halls of Congress. It simply says you need to show an ID. The same way we have a federal requirement to board a commercial aircraft at any American airport, you have to have a certain, not just an ID, you have to have a certain type, that real ID thing. They've implemented that. You've got to have it. And so for the Democrats to act as if it's so offensive to have to show your ID when you go vote, nobody finds that offensive. Even 71% of Democrats, according to Pew Research, don't find that offensive. And to say that these poor people are too stupid to go get an ID, any of them that ever go want to buy a box of wine or a carton of beer, crate of beer, case of beer, whatever you buy. I don't buy beer, so I don't know. I buy bottles, my friends, not cases. Yeah. So everybody's got an ID. You have to have an ID to get on a plane. You have to have an ID to pick up your tickets at the box office. You got to have an ID if you're going to pick up your cervezas. That's Spanish for Bad Bunny. I just want to make sure he understands what we're talking about. So anyway, watch that bill. Again, these are not the things that the public is being told we should think about, but there's a lot of election integrity we're getting exposed. A lot of deceitful lies are being exposed that we were told about January the 6th, 2020, the violence. And now we're learning the FBI was at least had a sharp eye on it. And they were... a lot of the conspiracy theories are seeming to be a little bit more true than what we were anticipating. So anyway, that's election integrity, big topic. That's I think you'll keep a sharp eye on it and look out for these stories. I think that's going to be very, very interesting as the truth comes out. All right, ladies and gentlemen, glad to have you here the day after the Super Bowl. Thousands of earballs will hear this show by the end of the day. We'll be on the podcast platforms here momentarily. Podcast Bean, Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeart, all the podcast platforms. You can listen to the audio version. Of course, many of you not only watch live on lots of platforms, several Facebook feeds, Twitter. Some of you share it on your own feed. So we got lots of folks who watch it. And again, it's not an untrue statement. It's a very truthful statement. Thousands of earballs will hear this show, see this show by the end of the day. And we are grateful for that indeed. All right. I want to welcome into the program great guest we met a couple of weeks ago, and his name is Jonathan Butcher, and he was on the program just a couple of weeks ago. He's written a brand new book. I think you ought to get a copy of it to explain a lot of the we're more united on some topics than you may think. Like I said, 71% of Democrats think we should have voter ID. Well, we're more united on other topics than you would imagine as well. Jonathan Butcher's written a book on it. Jonathan, welcome back to the show, sir.
Thank you. It's great to be with you.
Let's dive back into this thing. The title of your book is says that maybe we have more in common than we have in division, because sometimes we think maybe I'm the only guy that thinks this way, but seems like most of us are like the rest of us.
Well, on some key topics that have been in the news over the past few years, especially related to either, quote, gender or race and so-called social justice, there's actually quite a bit of common sense agreement on these issues. Take, for example, what's happening in Indiana. In Indiana right now, there is a proposal that would actually implement some of the ideas that we find so much widespread agreement on. One of them happens to be the success sequence. So in my book, I did a nationally representative survey of the general public and of parents, and I found that there was majority support for teaching young people at age-appropriate levels about the success sequence. Now, this is the idea that has been in social science research for many years, and it says that if you finish high school, you get a job or enter college for a terminal degree, and you get married before you have children, you are far less likely to wind up in poverty during your prime working ages. Sure enough, research finds that 97% of millennials that followed all three steps of the success sequence were not living in poverty and were actually on their way to middle age by the time of their prime working ages. So these are the kinds of common sense things that I found in my book that Americans agree on both sides of the aisle.
The voice of Jonathan Butcher will talk about the name of his book. I might as well give it to you. It's called The Polarization Myth, America's Surprising Consensus on Race, Schools, and Sex. There's a story that came out of Texas recently, and I was down in Texas last week when the story was circulating there, that there's an economic freedom account, or Texas has put together some accounts to help people afford, and you can access these accounts, apply for it, and go to private schools. It's really meant to equalize elections, give people a lot of choice in election. In Texas, I think these accounts, the application of these accounts were through the roof in just a couple of days. Talk about that program, and what does it say about parents that just want the best education for their kids, whether they're on in a blue county, a blue district, a red district. Parents just want what's best for their kids.
You're absolutely right. And this is a very exciting story. So, Texas last year passed what are known as education savings accounts. With an account, the state deposits a portion of a child's spending from the school funding formula into a private account that parents can use to buy education products and services for their children. These kinds of accounts have been available in Arizona, Florida, West Virginia, a host of states, upwards of 17 states now, with the passage of Texas's law, and it allows parents to even customize their child's education. Now, they could also choose a private school that aligns with their values, or a private school that parents feel is safer than the assigned public school to where their children were attending. Or they could choose a host of services, which is what makes education savings accounts not only so innovative for the future, but also distinctly different than vouchers. I mean, look, school vouchers have been very powerful. They have been a mechanism for children to attend private schools for decades now. The first program, if you can believe it, opened in Milwaukee in the early 1990s. And here we are today. More than half of all states in the US have some form of private school scholarship program. With the passage of Texas's new ESAs, half of all students, half of all kids enrolled in the US now have access to apply for some sort of private school scholarship or account style opportunity. So it was very exciting. The news in Texas last week was that more than 40,000 applications were received, which was a record for a first day for one of these programs. So it's a very exciting development in Texas.
Let me ask you, the school choice initiative. I think it goes beyond district. Parents, just my kid's not safe in this school. I want to be able to have access to that school. I think every parent ought to be able to choose that, and the tax dollars should follow the student and not necessarily go to some school that's not necessarily doing its job. Why is it that with this consensus, this feeling that all parents have, I want the best for my kid, whether it's a school down the street or it's across town, I want to have access to that. Why is it that in some states and a lot of places, the teachers' unions still seem to control things? There's a consensus of the parents and the people, and yet in a lot of places, parents and the people are not necessarily in control. It's driven by these unions and these teachers' unions protecting themselves. Why the disconnect? If the people want this, why are we not necessarily seeing the breakdown of this over here?
Well, remember, teachers' unions don't prioritize the working conditions of their members. They're not really interested in what's happening with their members. They are ready made political action groups. They move money to radical left organizations. They fund campaigns for left of center candidates. And look, I don't know. I won't try to look inside their heads to talk about their incentives, but I'll tell you what the result is. What the result is that anytime there's a new school choice opportunity, education choice opportunity for students, teacher unions file a lawsuit. And they have sued in Arizona, Nevada, Ohio, Florida, pretty much everywhere. One of these new programs that provides opportunities for children comes up, unions are the first ones to try to step in and block it. And make no mistake, even when the program is just for children with special needs, just for children with disabilities, teacher unions will step in and try to sue and force those children to only be able to attend their assigned public school.
Another topic that I think there's a lot of unanimity. I mean, it's probably one of those 80-20 issues, maybe 90-10, is that the gender issue that that boys are boys and girls are girls, and boys should not compete in girls' sports. There's a lot of agreement on that, and yet if you watch the news or listen to some political parties, you think that's a mountain they want to die on. This is the cause celeb that we have to stand up and endorse, condone, and even promote gender dysphoria. How is this topic, again, 80-20, 90-10 in the public's view, and yet politicians seem to keep picking this 10% view and promoting that and making us feel like we're sexist or some kind of a discriminating person if we don't go with that?
Yeah, they'll call us intolerant. Look, this topic is back in the news because there was a court case that was settled last week where a young lady had both of her breasts removed when she was
Yep.
16, 6 years ago. And she filed for malpractice because the doctors that essentially socially affirmed her and then actually affirmed her statement that she was born in the wrong body without looking into the underlying issues of anxiety, depression, mental health related issues. And so she said, look, you didn't try to help what was actually causing this gender dysphoria, if that's usually the term, right, that we use in
Yep.
cases such as these. So they didn't try to help her with mental health issues. They just went ahead and operated. And so she won and actually won a considerable award. So I think what you're going to find now is that doctors and other medical associations are going to start to back away from this idea that we should move right to surgeries for young people or even perform them at all. And like you said, the survey that's in my book, as well as several others, find that Americans believe there are two sexes, right? There's male and female. Boys should not be participating in girls' sports. Boys should not have access to girls' private spaces. I mean, look, in my home state of South Carolina, there was an issue last year of a male who said he was a female, got himself into a rescue house for women who had been abused, and then turned around and assaulted and stabbed a staff member. I mean, it's these kinds of things that we keep being told, oh, this never happens, and then it happens again, and we have to make the point that these are real threats to women's safety.
The voice of Jonathan Butcher, his latest book, he's with the Heritage Foundation. You can see that on the screen. It's called The Polarization Myth, America's Surprising Consensus on Race, Schools, and Sex. Jonathan, we have this consensus, and we've just talked about a couple of these issues where we're all in agreement, locked arms, let's walk down the road. We're with this. Why is it in these key issues we're so united that we still as a country feel so divided? How do we reconcile that? Do we not realize that we have more in common than maybe that separates us? Where's the division come from when there seems to be a lot of clarity and unity?
Well, I think there are a couple of competing things. I would say the top two. One is the mainstream media tells us that we are divided. They point out conflict all the time. Conflict sells advertising. Very easy to get people to tune in when something looks exciting when it's happening on TV. And then I think the other is social media. I think that social media and the algorithms allow us to see only what we want to see sometimes, and it allows people, I think, to form into these cliques, and they don't realize what is really happening elsewhere in across the culture. And I think that's why surveys are so helpful, right? They give us a snapshot in time of what other people are thinking on these issues. And they help to remind us that we are not isolated or alone when we do believe these things that we've been talking about here, whether it's the success sequence or, quote, gender and boys and girls sports. It should, I think, help to encourage us that we are not alone in taking these positions, and that the policies that now state lawmakers around the country have built on these issues are actually quite strong and will last. I'll give you a quick example. There are lawmakers across the country that have adopted provisions that say that when a child comes to school, if they say they were born in the wrong body, you still have to call them by the name and the pronouns that are associated with their birth certificate, unless you have express parent permission otherwise. And that's a way of keeping parents in their child's lives. And so policies like that, they help to build on these consensus issues.
Unfortunately, the state of Colorado, they take your child away if you want to for what they call dead naming. That's how radical our state is. We have a governor who pretends he's a libertarian, but he's as radical of a freak as they come. So just everybody knows when he runs for president in a couple of years, he's a freak. All right, here's a question: the survey, the interviews, and obviously you're a researcher. You're the Will Skillman Fellow at the in Education at the Heritage Foundation. You've written this great book. I don't know if you tried not to go into preconceived ideas, but there had to be some of the data, some of the research, some of it you look and go, let me look at that again. Does that really say that? There had to be some surprises that, for good or bad, that just caught your attention and said, wow, I wasn't expecting that. Give me one or two of those.
So I think on the issue of DEI and critical race theory, my survey did not find the opposite results that I thought they would, but there was actually quite a bit of neutrality. And I think I can chalk that up not to people actually being neutral, but I actually think that there's not widespread knowledge, at least at the time that we conducted our survey, of what these things are. I think critical race theory, for one, it's a pretty heady academic topic. I don't think people sit around at night thinking about whether or not critical race theory actually applies to their lives. But once they learn about it, once they realize that the application of critical race theory means that you believe America is systemically racist or that racism explains everything in American history, people are opposed to those. And we have survey questions that demonstrate that when you try to explain America as systemically racist, that the majority doesn't like that explanation, right? That doesn't jive with the way that we share a sense of national identity. So again, there's not necessarily opposition to the ideas and the policy proposals that I supported in my book. There is, I think, still room for advocacy, and that's why I wrote the book instead of just issuing a press release. Right? Surveys are helpful again to give you a snapshot in time, but when you have 3, 4, 5 surveys that show you the same thing over a period of time longitudinally, that tends to shape a national identity. That tends to speak for, I think, a shared understanding.
Jonathan Butcher, the name of his book, you see it on the screen, The Polarization Myth, America's Surprising Consensus on Race, Schools, and Sex. He's also the Will Skillman Fellow in Education at the Heritage Foundation. Go to heritage.org to learn more about that. Jonathan, if they want to get a copy of the book, I'm guessing Amazon. If they want to stay in touch with you or learn more about your work, where do they go?
Sure, you can find my book on Amazon. You can also find it from Encounter Books. If you want to follow me on social media, you can find me at @JM_Butcher.
I appreciate you. Thank you very much. Congrats on the book. I really enjoyed the conversation. I'm glad to have you back on, and we'll talk again very, very soon. Jonathan Butcher, and get a copy of that book and realize that there's probably more that we're in alignment with and that divide us, but the media doesn't let you feel that way. The social media doesn't as well. So get a copy of the book and understand that which brings us together maybe more than it may be easier to bring together in a lot of topics than you would think. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm glad to have you here on the show. Jimmy is my name. Unleashed from the confines of corporate radio, where Lakey unleashed, unafraid, unfiltered, all those things. Yeah, we're glad to have you here. Appreciate you. All the platforms, thousands of earballs will hear this show by the end of the day on podcast, broadcast, streamcast. The platforms are Rumble, everywhere we're out. So we appreciate everybody tuning in here today. And tell your friends, tell your neighbors about it. Let me welcome in my next guest is Dr. Gilda Carl, the author of Real Men Don't Go Woke. She's appeared on a lot of television shows and TV shows. She was the host of Fox's Dr. Gilda show, a TV pilot. She also was on MTV Love Doc, and she's wrote the 30-second therapist column for the Today Show, the Ask Dr. Gilda column in the National Enquirer, Ask Dr. Gilda column for Match.com. And Dr. Gilda Carl is in the green room now, and here she comes to the screen. Dr. Gilda, welcome in.
Hi, everybody. Nice to see you, Jimmy.
Great to see you. I've always got a question for you, you PhD types. When you're sitting in the green room watching a show like this, or you're kind of are you doing psychoanalysis on me right now? Is there anything you're picking up we need to talk about here? Do I need to get on the couch and lay down and tell you my problems?
Well, I observe for a living, and then I write about it and talk about it. So better watch out. I'm always analyzing.
Okay. If we need to talk offline, you let me know. I'm just Aaron. Hey guys, a psycho. No, don't do that. Let me ask you. I brought you on the topic of feminism, and I find it amazing. back in the early, I'm thinking of Susan B. Anthony, they fought for the right to vote. They fought for women's suffrage. They fought for these big causes. Now we have these people that are out there in the name of feminism, standing up for women's rights, that don't seem to care that ladies in Iran were dying because they didn't want to wear the hijab on their head. They don't seem to care that women can't even leave their houses in some of these countries without permission. Nobody's standing up for those rights. Now, they'll go to the university campus and scream about Israel, but what about the ladies they say they defend? And then you have Melania Trump, and I'll package all this up and pitch it to you. Puts out a movie, and a lot of the feminists out there don't seem to care that this is a woman that was an immigrant. This is a woman that's a success story. This is a woman who has achieved the pinnacle of success in many instances, and yet they don't idolize her. They hate her and her husband. Give me your thoughts. Where are the real feminists that really want to celebrate the successes of women?
The real feminists from days past are gone. We now have a bunch of woke white women who are so angry at everything. Here's their mantra: I hate men, I hate families, I hate anything that has to do with living happily ever after with somebody. And what they use as their favorite word is racist. You're a racist, you're a racist, you're a racist. It's used so often, it has lost its full meaning. But the hate is what punctuates all of their interactions. Many of them are lesbians, many of them are not. Many of them just hate for a living. So it comes to Melania, so she's the perfect person to hate. She's married to the person who they, for whatever the reason, they have deemed as the big enemy to society.
Yeah. Where did this hate come from? It's got to have a root. I mean, it used to not be this way. Ladies used to fight for something positive. They used to go out in the name of feminism and advance the cause. Where did it happen? Where did we go wrong as a culture, as a society? And where did we get off rails here?
Well, I'll give you an example of what has happened most recently in pop culture. Taylor Swift, great artist. Singer, she writes her songs and she talks about her true emotions, etc. And she was one of them once. Every time she had a breakup, every time a guy hurt her, she wrote about it, and everybody was scrambling. Who is that one? Who is that one? Who is that? So she went out of her way to go after some of the men who had hurt her feelings. And that's normal teenage stuff going on. But then she fell in love with the enemy. Oh, how dare her. She decided she loved a man. And of all things, he's a white man. So this is the latest rhetoric that has been lodged against Taylor Swift. She is a racist. And one of the writers who is a feminist, and I don't even use that word anymore. I just call them mean girls. So this writer said she's just a racist because in her lyrics, she wrote, I love you, I want to marry you, and I want to have babies with you. And this woman insisted that this was her talking about advancing the white gene pool. What was Taylor Swift supposed to write or sing? I can't wait to have babies with you, and I hope they come out looking Chinese. Well, let's be honest about this. So now she is now persona non grata. However, the Swifties went crazy and they rebelled. And you just might see, because of her millions of followers, a whole change in young women not going into the woke nonsense, but instead looking for love with whatever kind of color man they choose, just to be happy and to live a family life.
Yeah.
That's the current time example. You move that now to what they're doing to Melania. The whole left said, Melania, that movie is horrible. Nobody's going to attend. And yet, look what we have found. 83% of the people who attended are women. And they are 45 years old plus. This is phenomenal because we knew who carried Trump into the White House. They were young men who he found on the internet, on TikTok. I talked to these young men, and they are Trump lovers. Today, we may have a new voting bloc that nobody has realized until this movie came out, because these are the adult women who've had enough with this woke nonsense, who have had enough with everything that's going on today. This is why I wrote Real Men Don't Go Woke, because our men are dying, listening to all this nonsense. The suicide rate of men is 4 times greater than that of women. We have got to stop this nonsense. And Melania can lead the whole movement of women. This is a new bloc that we have never seen before, and nobody even recognized this as perhaps the new voting bloc.
Maybe that's why Vogue and some of those fashion magazines have tried to keep her off the cover and out of the magazine. They didn't want her to gain influence.
Without a doubt. They want nothing to do with her, and she doesn't. They don't want to see any kind of influence from her.
Yeah. Real quick, the name of the book is called Real Men Don't Go Woke. We'll talk about that. I got one more quick question, and I hope we get to the place where I felt bad for Ketanji Brown Jackson when she got nominated by Biden for the Supreme Court. Biden says, he didn't say I nominated the best person I could find, best lawyer, best academician. This is the person. He says, I told you I was going to get you a black woman on the Supreme Court, and she's the best of the black women that I could find. And I'm thinking, if I was Ketanji Brown Jackson, I think she's a loon, but if I were her, I'd go, hey, I'm the best of the best. But we're supposed to celebrate that she was kind of a diversity, equity, and inclusion appointment by Joe Biden's own. The feminists should have been pissed off.
They should have been, but they weren't. They are only pissed off with their particular goals, and that is to kill men. I mean, they couldn't care less about men and their suicide rates increasing. They couldn't care less about that. Some women online have said, oh, the suicide rate of these men, not high enough. I had 7,000 of those pinpointed online that I called attention to.
Wow.
This cannot go on.
Dr. Gilda Carl, I know you got to run. You're author of a book called Real Men Don't Go Walk, also a spokesperson for the International Council for Men and Boys. 2 things. Where do folks get the book, and how do people follow you and stay in touch with the very charming Dr. Gilda?
This is on Amazon. Notice it was created to look just like a men's manual. It's men-friendly, and men are reading it, but so are women, and mothers are thanking me for writing this book. So Amazon is perfect. Come to my website, drgilda.com. Ask me questions. Let's talk.
Got it. Dr. Gilda, I'll look for that analysis that you've done, the psychoanalysis of me, and I'll come lay down on the couch here real soon and tell you about my scars and traumas. That's it.
I'll fluff up the pillows for you.
Oh, please. I want a mint also, mint on the pillow as well. Dr. Gilda, I appreciate you. You got to run. Sutton's going to yell at me if I don't get you out of here on time. So God bless you. Appreciate you coming to Dr. Gilda Carl, author of Real Men Don't Go Woke, Roadmap for Emotional Resilience and Authentic Expression. And it's about reclaiming the masculine identity. And guys, ladies, everybody go get a copy. Her website is drgilda.com, drgilda.com. Delilah's looking at me, and she thinks that psychoanalysis probably would take too long. And if Dr. Gilda billed me by the hour, would have to fire Delilah to pay for it, probably just to pay for it. Because Delilah's pretty convinced that I need psychotherapy. You may be right. I hired you, so that probably is evidence, Delilah, that I do need some therapy in the world. Yeah, all the hipster youth running around here, the Lakey, and I said hipster youth, not Hitler youth. All the hipster youth out there, the work around here. looked weird. I do therapy just hanging out with you guys. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's Monday. How's everybody doing on this day the Lord has made? Well, we talked a little bit about the Super Bowl and the Bad Bunny dispute, and it looks like we all have kind of a consensus there. See, we have kumbaya moments on this program. I was a little bit disappointed in the TPUSA production quality. I just didn't think it measured up to an alternative halftime show. It was kind of like, hey, flip over and watch a 30-minute country concert. Well, that's different than a halftime show. So I thought it left me wanting and lacking, but millions of folks watched it. But I think a lot of you have expressed the same thing I have, that it wasn't exactly what I expected. Bad Bunny, it looked visually, the visual appeal of that was amazing. I was on a monitor and I saw it. I said, they really did great stage work with that. I thought that was impressive, but I'm sorry. I want my halftime show in English. If you want to expand the market, you expand the market. But the biggest platform, literally, it's probably a holiday in America. And you say, screw all you Americans, we're going to go try to captivate another demographic in a global market. Well, that's just not good. I mean, a lot of folks think that the day after Super Bowl should be a national holiday, and I don't necessarily disagree with that. All right. Can we talk here? Can we have a conversation? I think we can. It's been great weather here in Colorado, and that's when you. And I'm sure we're going to get winter. We probably need some winter, so it's not so dry this summer. But listen, start thinking about your real estate. You've been thinking about selling, but you thought you were going to wait till the cold weather ended. Well, the cold weather's ended, and I want to point out this. Go back and watch every Friday for the last several weeks. Find the segments with Sherry Creer. Go to her Facebook page. Those segments are highlighted. It was really fascinating to hear, and I've just been blown away by this, that there are different windows of opportunity to sell your home, and people that jump in what they call the early spring selling market were absolutely positively can make up more money than people that jump in the late spring or summer market. And you think that's not the case, but there's facts to do that. Sherry had a case in Thornton, Colorado, in which the same neighborhood, same floor plan, really comparable houses sold for about $50,000 to $60,000, $70,000 difference, because one sold early and it was a seller's market, and then the buyer's market kicked in, and the other person didn't get, they were down $50,000, $60,000, $70,000. Another interesting thing we talked about with Sherry on Friday is that just because you know somebody, we talk about interviewing a realtor. How do you know the right realtor for you? How do you know who should put the sign in the yard? Is it your cousin who's a realtor? Is it your neighbor? Is it the person that everybody else in the neighborhood used? Do you know the questions to ask? Go back and watch Friday's show and see the Sherry Cree interview and the conversation where we talked about that. And one of the top things she's mentioned is that of all across America, when you're interviewing a realtor, you need to find out, first of all, what they've been doing. 70% of licensed realtors in America did not have a transaction last year. Think of that. 70% of realtors across the nation did not have a transaction, which means, why do you want them working for you if if they can't sell a home, they're just not selling any houses? You want somebody that's going to be able to work for you and has a track record of success. They've dialed in marketing for your community. They really know what they're doing. And just because you have a friend, a cousin, a neighbor, relative, brother or sister at church or whatever, and they're doing real estate, you need to make sure you have the right questions for them in that interview process. Reach out to Sherry, even if you're not in her area, that I-25 corridor of Colorado. She was up this weekend. I saw she posted up. She was up in Eaton and Wellington, I believe, and Windsor, showing some homes and doing some real estate work up there. I mentioned Thornton. So you get that I-25 corridor from northern Colorado on down to, let's say, the Park Meadows area, the Denver Metro, Boulder, Longmont. You reach out to Sherry, and if there's an area that she can give you some advice in, a conversation in, and if she says, hey, I know somebody else I'd recommend in this area better, they're experts. She's got a referral service. Even if you're moving out of state, she can help you find someone like-minded like her out of state. She's got a great referral network. She does free referrals as a service she offers. But listen, if you're thinking of buying and selling a home, you got to interview the realtors. Do me a favor, interview Sherry Cree. Talk to her about the homes, the transactions she's been doing. Talk to her about some tough scenarios she's overcome. She's dealt with a lot of stuff, and this is why I'm happy to tell you, call Sherry. Sherry Cree, homeswithsherry.com, homeswithsherry.com. You can go back and watch our Friday segments together, but it's a really interesting conversation, learning so much about the real estate, how many realtors just don't sell homes. They just have a plaque, they have a business card, and they got their glamour shot, but they just not selling anything. And you want the person that knows how to move a home and or find you a home. Do you do that? Homeswithsherry.com, homeswithsherry.com. Make sure you're interviewing her. And if you're thinking of selling this month, next month, or whenever, go ahead, interview Sherry, homeswithsherry.com. All right, I see some comments coming in on the YouTube. Kevin, about the Turning Point USA, says, I was impressed by the constant positive posts that came through on YouTube while the country concert was going on. It was certainly patched together, but I did enjoy the music. I enjoyed the music. Just the production, the visual quality, I thought was lacking. It was the first show for TPSU. The first one's always the worst. It is. And Ray, I understand that they haven't done that, but they've done so many live events, and it's always a great quality. And who decided to keep that thing so dark? I mean, it was an outdoor concert, so the sun, the nature, was a different feel, and I think they missed that. Jeff says, in my opinion, the best commercial was the military jets doing their national anthem flyby. I thought it was cool. They had the cockpit, the two Air Force guys fist bumped at each other. That was cool. I was like, let's have more cockpit photos. I like to see what these guys are thinking when they're feeling, or I'd be like that. And they're just casual fist bumping, and I'd be like, I'd be throwing up. Yeah. Maybe they weren't going that fast. I don't know. All right, ladies and gentlemen, pleasure to be here. I want to remind you also, by the way, I was at an event last night. I haven't even told producer Chad this. They were doing football squares. You know what the squares are? You put Patriots here, Seahawks here, and this. They had explained to me how it worked. I didn't know anything about it. And people were buying squares, putting money on squares, and then you get the pool, right? It's not really gambling, so don't yell. And so somebody, a matter of fact, I think who started it at the party was our friend historian John P. Cole, who comes on the show. John P. Cole says he had his squares purchased on the board, and he said, if I win, I will donate what I win to Rivers Promise if I can get 4 other people to commit to the same thing. And before you know it, everybody at the Super Bowl party was like, yeah, I'll donate mine. And so last night we didn't have it was, I don't know what the squares cost. I don't even know. But last night at the Super Bowl party, because of our friend John P. Cole and our friend Judy Pfeiffer and some other people at the party, guess what? They raised $425 for Rivers Promise. People they just gave away their winnings. It was $500, and one guy didn't. He was watching he's a Bad Bunny type. he didn't give he took his $75. We have $425 for Rivers Promise, all with a little football game called Squares. I don't know how to play it, Delilah. You know how to play it? You do. All right. Probably because there's gambling and debauchery involved, so you probably know all about it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Judy and John P. Cole. We appreciate you doing that. That was very nice. And other people, I think we have lots of folks were like, I'll give it. If I win, keep it. And yeah, we got to check. $425. You know how many kids that feeds? You do the math right now. $30 feeds a kid for how many? For a month? And we got $425. Anybody want to match that today? $425. Who could give $425? How about $4.25? You could do that, couldn't you? How about $40.25? Anyway, appreciate everybody pitching in, helping us help children in Rwanda. Woke up this morning to a batch of letters that are being written to sponsors right now, and we have to work with that this week. And some of your sponsors are going to start getting letters over the next couple of days from your sponsored kid. Go to riverspromise.org, riverspromise.org, see what we can do. We'll talk more about it tomorrow, but $425, that's going to feed a lot of kids for a month. And I'll just do the math here. 425 divided by, I gotta do the math. See, I have tired mind. That's 14 kids. We're going to feed 14 kids for a month with that 425. It ain't bad for a Super Bowl party, is it? And I made some mean nacho cheese. Beautiful. Had sausage in it, and yeah, I'll bring some tomorrow for you, Delilah. All right. No, I had leftovers. All right, ladies and gentlemen, 425, that feeds 14 kids for 30 days. Isn't that cool? All of the Super Bowl party. Take that, Bad Bunny. And we raised all the money in English. We did. All right, here we go. Let's do it. Stolen memes section of the show. Appreciate all of you. Really do. You're all nice people. Most of you are nice people. We really like to have you. All right. Everybody like Dr. Gilda. Delilah's holding up a sign. Let Dr. Gilda back on. can't fire me. I hired you. Round and round the globe we go, where we steal the memes from. No one knows. Babylon B, look, a room full of pedophiles protest ICE deporting pedophiles. Look, it's the Grammy Awards. Was that the Grammys? I think it was the Grammys, right? I don't know what it was. That's where Bad Bunny said, ICE out. Like he was a Terminator. I don't know if he was trying to do Schwarzenegger or what. ICE out. Shut up, Bad Bunny. Round and round the globe we go, where we steal the memes from. No one knows. Hey, Ellen, why does your set look like Epstein Island? There's truth to that. Here's a question for you. That was another great commercial, by the way. Was it Matthew McConaughey in that commercial? And the NFL Hall of Fame looked like a juicer. That was funny. That was really a great commercial. I forgot about that one. That was two funny ones all night. The Dunkin' Donuts was a funny one as well. Round and round the globe we go, where we steal the memes from. No one knows. That's me waiting for subtitles at the halftime show. Or is that producer Chad at Brokeback Mountain? I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. I couldn't do that. I just say things, Delilah. Unafraid and unfiltered. I don't know. I just producer Chad. We could have said Aiden the Hipster Youth at Brokeback Mountain, which probably would be true. My generation will decide the future. I love this. Your generation can't decide if they're a boy or a girl. There's so much truth to that right there. You can't even figure out whether you should stand to pee or sit to pee. By the way, if any of you are struggling with that, send a note to producer Chad. He'll help you figure it out. Round and round the globe we go, where we steal the memes from. No one knows. People in their 60s on the phone. I better not say that or the government will wiretap my house. People today are like, hey, wiretap, do you have a recipe for pancakes? Yeah, that little device always listening to us, isn't it? I guarantee you sometime on my phone today, because it's sitting right here, it's going to be in the algorithm. I'm going to get recipes for pancakes. Watch and see. Round and round the globe we go, because I said it. Round and round the globe we go, where we steal the memes from. No one knows. Sean Farash says, so let me get this straight. Having separate alternative halftime shows for the Super Bowl is bad, but having separate alternative national anthems for the Super Bowl is good. Yep, the left can never pass its own test, can they? That's true. Round and round the globe we go, where we steal the memes from. No one knows. Barbara, hey, what you want? I want everybody to know that no one is illegal on stolen land. Barbara says, say no more. And that's the haircut you get. That's ugly. Round and round, that's not just ugly. That's what we call fugly. You know what that means, right? But round and round the globe we go, where we steal the memes from. No one knows. There it is. China. Stop stealing intellectual property. We are the masters of that, and you shall not be. All right, everybody, thanks for tuning in. Super Bowl Mondays are always slow days for everybody, but there are a lot of good numbers coming in and looking at all the platforms here that I can see, and I appreciate you being there. Jeff says Raisin Bran had a great one with William Shatner. See, I didn't see that one. I'm not sure exactly where that happened. See, I might have missed some. But yeah, that Matthew McConaughey one was funny. That was really funny. And the Dunkin' Donuts I thought was funny as well, with Tom Brady as Jennifer Aniston's boyfriend. And they had Urkel on there, that guy that played Urkel. He's all grown up. And I wanted him to say, did I do that? He had a line, but he didn't do that famous line. He should have. That would have made it even much better. All right, ladies and gentlemen, good to have you here on the program. Don't forget, I'm serious about this. Go make a donation to charity. We fed 14 kids for a month last night at a Super Bowl party, playing a game of squares on a piece of paper. And if you could make a donation, we would love to have you make that donation today. Any amount. Again, $30 feeds a kid for an entire month. $9 buys a day supply of eggs for a classroom. So if you give $18, you're making sure kids have the protein of eggs in their classroom for an entire day. I'll put out the whole list again if you haven't seen it. We talked about it last week, but I'd love to have you participate. Everybody go to riverspromise.org. If any of you want to match that $425 we raised at the Super Bowl party last night playing squares, or even if you don't match it, how about a couple of bucks? How about $4.25? You do that one? Go to riverspromise.org. Make a great donation today. My name is Jimmy Lakey, or as ICE knows me, I am Jaime Lagos. And I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Everybody, we're going to have a great week together. Be back here tomorrow morning. Until we meet again, may God bless you. May God bless America. I am Jimmy Lakey. Peace. I'm out of here.